Hello, everyone. Dr. Vicky here, speaking to you from the Seeds of Transformation Healing Center in Wareham, Massachusetts. We're going to take a look at the last week of July. That's July 23rd to the 31st. As we approach this week, we just had Venus turn retrograde. We just had the Sun move into Leo. So that's sort of where we're standing right now. The nodes last week shifted. We had an opposition of the Sun and Pluto. So there's a lot of tense energy, feeling as if we are on the brink or on the cusp of something big, and we certainly are. And let's take a look and see what the next week has to show for itself. All right, let's see. So just give me a little bit because as always, I struggle with the technology. Now, this coming week, we have some pretty potent things happening. Let's get, let me just click on the slideshow here. I don't want it from that slide. So, okay, here we go. Let's do it from here. Alrighty. From current slide. All right, so we're looking at the fourth week of July. That's July 23rd to the 31st. And we'll start on Sunday, the 23rd, with Pluto squaring the nodes. So we knew as soon as, or we could certainly feel as soon as the node shifted, Pluto had just moved back into Capricorn. So we knew this was happening. We've been feeling this for months and months. And the actual orb of influence for this goes well into November of this year. So this is a challenging, intense, somewhat emotional time. And we'll get into the Pluto square the nodes and what all that means and how that sort of works out. We also do have on July 23rd, Mercury making its first quarter square to Uranus. This is a crisis in action square. There's Mercury and Uranus have a special relationship because Uranus is considered the higher octave of Mercury. All the transpersonal planets, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. We include Eris in there, all the Kuiper belt objects, if we like. Their function is to break down the shell that sort of keeps us unaware of that which is higher, further out than us, so to speak. And so Uranus very much acts like Mercury, which is a mental vibration. Mercury is the planet associated with the mind and how our mind organizes things and how it takes in energy, how it takes in information. The nervous system is ruled by Mercury, but the brain is ruled by Uranus, and so it's a higher vibrational state of Mercury, so to speak. And in point of fact, our brains are actually receiving stations and sending stations for these higher vibrational frequencies, and it comes in, or we tune in, so to speak, and we could have a very small bandwidth, or we could have very large bandwidth, right? And so the larger your bandwidth, the more sort of out there you are. Which can make, for some people, can make it hard to live on the earth, on planet Earth. But these are the people, these are the visionaries, these are the people that see beyond what we see and are willing to sort of go there. That's Uranus. And this first quarter square is an opportunity, a crisis in action on the seeds planted at the time that Uranus and Mercury made a conjunction. And that actually occurred on the 4th of June, 2023. So it just happened not too long ago. And it happens at 21 degrees of Taurus because, of course, Uranus is in Taurus for 7 years. So these conjunctions between Mercury and Uranus are going to be in Taurus for as long as Uranus is in Taurus. And then the next sign, they'll be in Gemini. And then the next sign is Cancer. So there's a 7-year, 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 right? Okay. So this particular cycle, which is a yearly cycle, it happens every year, occurred at this 21st degree of Taurus, which is a finger pointing to a line in an open book. The keynote here is learning to discern what in your culture and religion is meaningful to you personally. So this energy is about selecting what works for you. It doesn't all have to work for you. We don't all have to agree, but I think we all need to allow each other to take our own personal experience into hand here, and then take actions on that. So what is it you specifically resonate with, and to take an action on that. On Tuesday, the 25th, we have the first quarter moon. This is the first quarter moon of the new moon that happens in Cancer. It happens at, was it 24 degrees of Cancer, I believe. And that was the same day that the nodes shifted into Aries and Libra from Taurus and Scorpio. And it was, I think there was also a trine on that day. Was it Neptune trine? Perhaps not, but there was something else. It was I think a square on that day, but there was a lot of shifting energy on that day. And now we're at 7 days later from the new moon, and we have the moon and sun make a square. And of course, the sun is now in Leo, so the moon square is in Scorpio. Now, Leo and Scorpio are an interesting combination, very passionate combination. It's love and passion. And so it's important that the actions that you take passionate. It needs to come from, you have to love it. You have to, that's what is being asked, is to just love it and do it because you love it. And so we need to sort of take an action based on that, really. But seated at that very powerful new moon that was opposite Pluto, our relationship to power, or our relationship to be feeling disempowered, along with the axis of the nodes coming across, creating a grand square, asking us, how are we going to relate to one another in order for us to be who we uniquely are? Really, that's the question we're asking. All right, so, and then we also have on the 25th, Pluto square the nodes again. Now, the interesting thing about a planet squaring the nodes is it usually just happens over one day. If the planet is stationary, then it can maybe happen, and the nodes happen to be stationary at the time, because the nodes can be stationary as well. Maybe it lasts a little bit longer. Somehow the math ended up working out that we actually have 3 exact squares of Pluto to the nodes. But with Pluto, it takes so long for Pluto to move through something that it's just an increase. It's just like this pressure we feel, and then a little bit more pressure, and then a little bit more pressure. So by the 3rd time that it does, we should have some idea of what all this pressure has wrought. And as we know, if you take a piece of coal and you put it under enough pressure, you can get a diamond. But it does require a lot of willingness to take the pressure on, so to speak. Okay. We also, so the next thing we look at for the week is Thursday, the 27th. We have Mercury making an inconjunct to Neptune. With Mercury inconjunct Neptune, lots of time and effort can be wasted when you plan on things that are out of reach. So this is about, there's an impracticality to this. And I'm just reminded, as I'm doing this the week before this week, today is the 21st, there was this is sort of the energy, and I bring it up because it's a good example of this. Um, Speaker of the House, McCarthy, promised Trump that he would expunge the impeachment for him, that they would do some sort of official vote on it. But as far as I understand it, there's really no way to expunge an impeachment. It's not a thing. You can't like do it. He was found innocent. He wasn't found guilty of it. So it's like, it's almost like, well, you weren't found guilty because your friends like pulled you out of that, right? But it's like he just wants to be said that what he did was right, which of course wasn't right. None of it's right. The guy has been indicted up the kazoo, but you know, these are these people that feel like they have to have total control, and that's a recipe for disaster. That's that you can't, because you will always have to surrender to the soul. You will always have to surrender to the soul, and even someone as high and mighty as the old Trumpster is going to have to do that. So this is about like promising more than you can deliver, promising more that's even capable. It's like delusional. There can be a delusional quality to this. So we'll see that. We'll see the delusional stuff as what would be the difference. We've been seeing that anyway, right? Okay. And then we also have on the 27th, we have Mercury conjunct Venus at 29 degrees of Leo. This is Venus and Mercury have an interesting relationship, because they're they're the inner planets. They're between the Earth and the Sun, and so there's only a range that they can move in relationship to us on Earth, because when we look at astrology, this tropical astrology, it's geocentric. We're looking at the world from our perspective, and so these two planets do come together on occasion, and then, but it's like ships passing in the night, right? Interestingly enough, it's hermaphrodite. It's a hermaphroditic energy, right? Mercury or Hermes, and Venus is Aphrodite. So there's this energy of hermaphrodite here on this day. So we may hear something about trans rights or something like that. LBQTIIT, all the initials. I apologize for not knowing all the initials. I barely know my own initials, quite frankly. I've never been good at initials. Like, even because I'm a doctor, people say I have IBS, and now I know what IBS is, but I like all the words. Like, just the initials don't tell me what I need to know. That's like code for, are you in the club? So I'm not into that, actually. All right, so Mercury conjunct Venus at 29 of Leo. And I remember 29 of Leo is where Venus stationed retrograde. So she's moving backwards now, but she's moving backwards very slowly. And now Mercury comes along and they hang out for a bit. And this happens, well, we'll look at the chart as to the degree. 29 degrees of Leo. This is the mermaid symbolism, but we'll get to it. We'll look at it. On Friday, the 28th, Mercury makes an inconjunct to Pluto. The compulsive side of your nature may lead you into being way out of control. The compulsion to be right, the compulsion to be in charge, the compulsion to have everything perfect, the compulsion, whatever your compulsion is, not a good, being compulsive is not a good look at this time, but it is, the energy is there. So if you have the tendency, step back from it and see what you have to learn from it, because the inconjuncts are there for you to make adjustments. This particular inconjuncts with Mercury in Leo and Pluto in Capricorn is one in which we really need to, in order to be led into society, to be heard, you need to make some emotional adjustments about your feelings here. And so you kind of have to get over stuff with this energy. And then we also have, of course, Pluto square the nodes for the third time. On Saturday, the 29th, we have the sun make an inconjunct to Saturn, the sun in Leo, Saturn in Pisces. This is a waxing inconjunct. It has the energy of Virgo. So it's about being self-aware enough to know that you need to make some adjustments in the way you're thinking about things. It says the sun in conjunct Saturn creates an imbalance between free expression and a heavy sense of responsibility. And so the responsibility takes the lead here. That needs to sort of be your primary concern, because you'll have opportunities to self-express. There comes a time when you can self-express and share what you know, but this is a time in which you need to take the responsibility of what you're saying. What's the weight of what you're saying? Are you willing to pay the price for what you're saying? And Sunday the 30th, we have Venus make an inconjunct to Neptune. Just like Mercury and Uranus have a special relationship, as Uranus is the higher octave of Mercury, so does Venus and Neptune. Neptune is considered the higher octave of Venus, so it works on a more global, collective, galactic scale. Neptune does. Neptune is the dissolution of boundaries. And so it opens us up. And now Venus is there, retrograde in Leo. We can kind of talk ourselves into some things, some delusions of grandeur here, guys. So we need to be aware of that. We need to stay humble. Now, this is the second of 3 inconjuncts. The first one happens on July 15th. That's when Venus was moving direct at 28 degrees of Leo Pisces. Now, as Venus moves retrograde, it goes at the same degree, 28 Leo Pisces. But now Venus is retrograde. And then lastly, Venus will go direct and reach this point on October 3rd. At that time, it'll be at 26 degrees of Leo Pisces. Venus will be moving forward. So by October, we'll have a better understanding of what it is that we are working with. And Venus and Neptune, their synodic cycle is a year-long cycle, and it began with Venus and Neptune in Pisces. So we're in the Pisces energy. We're in the energy of love and compassion. All right, we're in the energy of love and compassion. So let's take a look at some of the charts here quickly. I'm a little disheveled today because I was painting. I was refinishing the door and painting the bedroom, and it's hot. So this is me being hot, a tad sweaty, and a little tired from my toil. All right, so let's take a look here now. When Pluto squares the node, we are at an evolutionary crossroads. You can feel it. We know it. The Earth can feel it. The Earth is saying, hey, guys, it's time to get along so we can all survive. South node in Libra, get along. North node in Aries, survival. We have to start working together. And not only do we have to start working together as individuals within the collective, but the people in charge have to start working together. So we really need to be working in the direction of peace. This configuration, you're in an evolutionary crossroads, stuck between the past and the future. What do you do? Well, in this configuration, the resolution node, there's always a node in which we need to work through in order to get where we want to go, right? Do we want to go left? Do we want to go right? In this case, we want to go to the south node, which is in Libra. Libra is about our relationships. It's Venus ruled. And what is Venus right now but retrograde in the sign of the heart? This is about examining our heart, okay? And really looking at things from a heart-centered place, because a lot of the abuses of power that we're seeing that we see every day on our news feeds or on our phones, or whatever it is, wherever we're getting our information, most of it is, we can see women and children really suffering, people suffering, families getting torn apart, whether it's through war or it's through climate change, whatever it is, we see people getting torn asunder, and or our children being shot at with weapons of war. So there's all kinds of reasons to just say, what the heck is going on? Well, Pluto wants us to say, how are we using our power? How are we using our power? The ruler of the South Node is Venus, which is at 29 degrees of Leo. A mermaid emerges from the ocean waves, ready for rebirth in human form. The stage at which an intense feeling of intuition arises from the unconscious and is about to take form in conscious thought. Here's Pluto. Here's the nodes. Here's the sun. The sun just moved into Leo. That is opposite. We have this giant square. These squares, especially the cardinal ones, these are initiations. We're going through an initiation process. What do we have to initiate? New ways of relating. We have a yod from, where is it? Let's see, Neptune and Pluto are making a yod to Venus. Venus and the south node of the moon, which is Venus ruled, is making a yod to Neptune. Okay, so we have this Venus and Neptune both in the crosshairs of the yod, which is saying to us the south node in Libra, how have we related in the past? How has that served us? Is it working? Do we need to do it in a new way, which would be the north node in Aries, where we can align with who we truly are? Who are we? We are sparks of the divine people. We don't have to do this. We have within us everything. And so if we can love ourselves in a real way, Venus and Leo, then we don't need to hurt anybody else, because why would we? We have it all within us. And the more actuated we are having it all within us, the better off we're all going to be. Because we can only, because ultimately we're taking responsibility for our own lives. And for those of us who have more freedom and more opportunity, we have to do it even more so, because there are people who can't do it for themselves, because they're in a war zone, or because they're not educated enough, or because they're just not quite, they don't quite understand their own power. And we're going to have opportunities to feel our power, and also we're going to have opportunities to feel disempowered through this whole process of Pluto square the nodes. All right, let's continue. Now let's look at this chart. This is the same chart, same day, only I put it to the US. So this is for Washington, D.C. It says Pluto square the nodes for Washington, D.C., which would indicate the United States. And you could do this for any country. Israel would be an interesting country to do that. Iran would be, Russia would be, Ukraine, you could do it all, right? But I only have a certain amount of time to do it. But you can put this chart there and see what their lessons may be. Now for us, we can see that we have the south node in the sixth house. The sixth house in a mundane chart can be medicine. It can be the service, the United States service, the military. The sixth house is a place of service, right? So all those who are in service with Libra. So this can also be a renegotiation of labor contracts here. We can see that here with the north node in the 12th house. The 12th house is our own undoing here. And we have to understand that. We need to understand how we undo ourselves. It's also the place of hidden enemies. And with America, very often the enemy lies within. The enemy lies within. And those people who like to separate us like to stimulate that in us, and distrust of one another. We live in a democracy. We have to be able to agree on certain things. And those people who wish to separate us, so that, united we stand, divided we fall, we need to be aware of that. We need to be aware of that. So we have Pluto at 30 degrees of Capricorn, a secret meeting of men responsible for its executive decision in world affairs. Keyword here is executive power. So that's the planet squaring the nodes. The resolution node, being the south node of the moon, is at 30 degrees of Libra, 3 mounds of knowledge on a philosopher's head. The keynote here is the fulfillment of man's power of understanding at whatever level of existence the person operates. So this is about utilizing your understanding, and the understanding of who? Your understanding of yourself, your understanding of who you are in relationships. In fact, we learn about ourselves through relationships. Anything you see in somebody else that you do not like is something that you do not accept in yourself. And until you come to terms with how what you don't accept in yourself has served you in some way, and you learn to love it instead of dislike it, then you're going to see it in another person. And it's easy enough to blame other people for your problems, but ultimately we have the power. And this in part is, I think, what this is trying to let us know and to show us, a holistic approach to knowledge. So it's a whole-bodied approach to knowledge. It's not just what you learn in books, but it's what you learn through experience. It's what you learn through your emotional body. It's what you learn from your intuitive facilities, and so things like meditation and walking the earth, and being creative. These are all ways for you to connect to that inside creative force. The north node is at 30 degrees of Aries. It says a duck pond and its brood, and the realization of natural boundaries. Keyword here, focalization. What this helps us to do is it helps us to see where we will do the most good, folks. Where will we do the most good? Now, I did notice that the ascendant for this is at 440 of Taurus. So I looked up the Sabian symbol for 5 degrees of Taurus, which is how you do it. You always go up. If it was 400 4 degrees and no minutes, we would look at 4. But because it's 4 degrees and 40 minutes, we look at 5 degrees. You go up, right? It says a widow at an open grave. The impermanence of all material and social bonds, discarding the past. Discarding the past. And it's not about discarding the past and saying, well, I don't need to know about it. You do need to know about it. The Pluto square the nose is asking you to know about it, to understand it, to utilize your knowledge and your experience, and then come together to resolve the issues that we have, right? To let the past go through a healing process of the past, not just ignoring it, right? So we see a lot of things about history and what was history and what's not history, and whose history is it, and critical race theory, which is a made-up thing. So, we can see this all happening. On Sunday, the 23rd, Mercury makes a first quarter square to Uranus. This is a crisis in action on the seeds planted at the Mercury-Uranus conjunction, which occurred at 21 degrees of Taurus, a finger pointing at a line in an open book. Learning to discern what in your culture and religion is meaningful to you personally. This is about personal experience. This is about personal experience and acting on that. Maybe not acting on what you were told, how you should act, but acting on how you know from experience that is best to act, okay? Learning to discern what in your culture and religion is meaningful for you personally. You do not have to fit in to a box. You can be who you are. And the more we accept who we are, the more we love who we are, the less concerned we are about who other people are. And so we can get down to the work of co-creating. And we have a lot of work ahead of us, guys. We have to co-create this new world order, guys. And we're on the clock. All right. Now Mercury is at 23 degrees of Leo. In a circus, a bareback rider displays her dangerous skill. This is where Mercury is. This is where the mind is, and the audacity and perseverance required to control and play with powerful energies of a vital realm in human existence. Virtuosity. This is about really applying yourself, but carefully, because it's dangerous. You have to know that there's and because it's because you're working with such power, you have to be aware of what wielding that power may mean. And that's true for all of us. You do not have to be Vladimir Putin or the Dalai Lama. We all have power. All have power. It is square. Uranus at 23 degrees of Taurus. A jewelry shop filled with valuable gems. The social confirmation of natural excellence. A certification of personal worth. So to a certain extent, the Uranus is asking you to take actions from a sense that you are valuable and that what you have to offer is valuable, and not in competition to somebody else, but in cooperation with somebody else. Because the North Node, the Pluto square the nodes is asking us to cooperate with each other. Okay, let's continue here. All right, so we have the Venus conjunct Mercury. This is occurring, of course, at 29 degrees of Leo because things haven't moved very much. Venus is still at that degree where she turned around. Now she's doing the moonwalk. Actually, she's moving backwards, but it's when you, I don't know if you've ever tried the moonwalk, but it looks easy, but it takes a lot of muscle coordination. So you gotta really practice. And so in the beginning, you're moving back really slow, right? All right. So a mermaid emerges from the ocean, waves ready for rebirth in human form. The mermaid is similar to the centaur in that the bottom of the mermaid is fish, and the bottom of the centaur is a horse, right? Whereas the top is a woman or a man, merman, right? Or in the case of the centaurs, the upper part of the man. So it's about being both divine, which is more like head stuff, and earthly, or in this case, oceanly. So it says the stage at which an intense feeling or intuition rising out of the unconscious is about to take form into conscious thought. So something is about ready to be birthed. The mermaid personifies the stage of awareness still partially enveloped by the ever-moving and ever-elusive ocean of the collective unconscious, yet already half formulated by the conscious mind. Any creative thinker or artist knows well the peculiar mixture of elation and anxiety characterized at such a stage. So this is really about putting out your creativity. That's what this is asking us to do. All right. And wherever this may fall in your chart, wherever 29 degrees of Leo falls in your chart, will give you in a sense of where this creativity is going to come through. All right. And so here I have this is actually a little wrong, but here I have Pluto squares the nodes 3 times from July 23rd, first time July 23rd, last time the 28th. So it's the 23rd, the 25th, and the 28th. All with Pluto at 29 degrees of Capricorn. Pluto moves very slowly, so we would expect that. And the nodes at 29 degrees of Aries, Libra. The rulers of the nodes do shift in those times. So what does that mean? Well, the ruler of the North Node is Mars, and so Mars will move through the zodiac through the week. And so the North Node ruler, Mars in Virgo, is going to be at different degrees. The Mars, the ruler of the North Node during this period, Mars starts at 8 degrees. A 5-year-old child takes its first dancing lessons, learning to use one's capacity for emotional self-expression according to cultural standards. The second time Pluto squares the node on the 25th, Mars is at 10 degrees of Virgo. It says two heads looking out and beyond the shadows. The keynote here is growth of true understanding, born out of the transcendence of duality, even while immersed in the world of duality. And so this is asking you to rise above it, to observe what's going on, instead of necessarily getting completely emotionally, like entwined or in, because what's going on right now, it's like this, right? So it can be really great or really terrible or really great, and that's no way to find balance. We need to be aware of that. And then lastly, on the 28th, when it does its last square and it's over, it's the ruler Mars will be at 12 degrees of Virgo. After the wedding, the groom snatches the veil from his bride, the penetrating and unveiling power of the trained mind. So this is helping us to see that we can, if we apply ourselves, if we allow ourselves to do what we need to do in this three-dimensional dual nature, third dimension, and yet we stay aligned with our higher dimensional self, fifth dimension or higher. Some people can access the higher dimensions past the fifth. Most of us now are starting to get this fifth dimensional stuff. And so it seems more natural to be able to see what's going on and sort of rise up above it and not have it affect you in the way that it had negatively affected you before. We also have the the South Node in Libra. And so Venus starts at that 29th degree, right? But then starts to finally move into the next degree, which is the 28th degree, because Venus is moving retrograde. And we have the mermaid image for the first degree, and the 28 degrees, Mary's many little birds on a limb of a big tree. A wide and perhaps confusing openness to multiplicity of inspiring potentialities. And so this is asking us, although it may be confusing at first, to be open to new ideas, new relationships, new ways of relating. Oops, press the wrong thing. All right, so that's what I want to say. We have those inconjuncts at the end of the month as well. Saturn in conjunct the Sun, Mercury Venus in conjunct Neptune, right? The ones that I spoke of when we first got on here. Let me see. So I just don't want to. Yes. Okay. So remember, Mercury in conjunct Neptune. Don't waste your time on things that are out of reach. That's the 27th. Mercury in conjunct Pluto. Avoid compulsivity. That's the 28th. The 29th, the Sun in conjunct Saturn. Take your responsibilities seriously. Utilize your responsibilities to help to self-express, but in a maybe a little bit more muted way than perhaps you're comfortable with or you would like to. And then Venus in conjunct Neptune, which is this energy of what's important to you, your relationships. What are your relationships really like? How are you like? What sometimes rose-colored glasses are not the best thing for relationships, but it kind of depends on what you're trying to get out of it, so to speak. All right, so that's the dealio, guys. All right. Excuse me. All right, so that is July. Woo! So I hope I hope you find this helpful. Thank you, all my people out there, for helping me get to 10,000. subscriptions. That was very nice. I've been wanting to do a live for you guys to celebrate that. I think when I was going to actually do it tomorrow, which it would, well, it's the 21st while I'm doing this, but tomorrow would be when Venus goes retrograde. But I think it's going to have to wait a little while. I have to line up with Ona because she's going to be she's going to make sure that no crazy people get on. Not that any of you are crazy, of course, I would never think that, but I don't know how to do it really, so I need a little help. And she just sold a house, so she's going to be pretty busy for a while, but I will let you know when that's going to happen. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed my work and you'd like to support me, you can give a thumbs up, you can share this video. Well, you can become a patron. There are links below for that as well. So until next month, when I see you for the Astrology and Kabbalah of August, the Astrology of August, and the Tarot Scopes for August, I'll see you then. And of course, I see you every morning anyway. So have a wonderful day and take care of one another. Be kind. Namaste.